Folks, welcome. Melanie, let me begin with you on trade. It would seem that both sides need a win to reach some agreement, whether it's March 1st or postponed until some later time. What does a win look like to the United States, and can you see Xi Jinping and China going along with it?
I think you're exactly right. It's much like the shutdown fight where both sides need to be able to claim a victory. I think for President Trump, he needs China to open up its markets, especially for those exports and those ag products. He also needs China to stop the intellectual property theft, stop the transfer of technology, the forced transfer of technology, and most importantly, they need to see some sort of enforcement mechanism so China can really honor its commitment to whatever deal is cooked up. For President,
you see the Chinese going for that?
Well, that's one of the main sticking points right now that they've been debating over. It's not just the intellectual property theft, it is that enforcement mechanism, and that's where we see a lot of apprehension. President Xi, one of the biggest things for him, of course, is either having those proposed tariffs entirely eliminated or having them sharply reduced. But look, especially with President Trump, it's really unpredictable. In some cases, he does appear more willing to give up concessions, like you saw with North Korea talks. But in other cases, when he feels like he has the upper hand, he digs in, like we're seeing with the shutdown fight. So it's really hard to tell, but there's not a lot of time, and there are a lot of sticking points that
Jeffrey,
remain.
when you hear the president speak, you can almost feel his eagerness, his desire for a deal in the way he speaks of his friendship with Chairman Xi in China. What if he gets half a loaf, but not the whole loaf? Do you think he's likely to go for it?
I think it's important to distinguish between what they can do in the short term, so before the 1st of March, and what will take months, if not years, to accomplish. So I think we're likely to see a short-term sort of half a deal that will allow them to extend negotiations on the more structural issues that Melanie was just mentioning. But in the meantime, gives Trump a sort of short-term win and probably includes some Chinese pledges to purchase American agricultural goods and potentially manufactured goods as well, to try to reduce the trade deficit.
Jeffrey, when you take a look at what is going on with both sides, China and the U.S., when it comes to their stock market, when it comes to the economies, do you see that this is a pressure point for either side, or do you think that that doesn't play a role in this?
Yeah, no, I think both sides are quite clearly under pressure. From the Chinese side, there is obviously a slowdown that's happening in the Chinese economy, and the concerns about growth there are very real. From the U.S. side, certainly in the last quarter of last year, the White House became much more concerned about the volatility in the equity markets. Some of that has eased as the markets have improved.
It's eased a lot. I mean, it may have given the White House a reprieve from actually seeking a deal, given the bounce back that we've seen from the December 24th lows.
Potentially. I still think that the White House is acutely concerned about that stuff. If you look at the way that the market moves on any kind of news on this issue, it's pretty clear that if they were to announce, we're not making progress in the talks and we're calling them off, even, we're going to escalate tariffs, that would be a huge market event that I think they're very eager to avoid.
Melanie, did Wilbur Ross just create a landmine for the administration? I mean, his comments about, federal workers can just go get a loan, it really came off as tone deaf. Granted, it is true, and through a credit union, you could probably get a loan in about 7 days, but still, it doesn't appear very empathetic, and it may put Republicans in a place where they don't necessarily want to be, and that is the party that doesn't care about the working class.
Yeah, it's not a good look for Republicans. It's not a good look in general for this country. And that's just where we are. It's day 34 of the shutdown. We're not much closer to a deal, although I will say there are some signs of progress today and a little bit more optimism over the last 24 hours. But I think at the end of the day, both sides are really struggling to message this thing. How can either side explain to their constituents and to the American people why for 34 days the government has not been funded, why all these workers are going without paychecks, why security is potentially compromised? It's a difficult thing to message on. And I think that's why, especially with the next paycheck set to be missed tomorrow, we are going to see some movement. It's the beginning of the end here. It's just a matter of how long that is going to take.
So, Jeffrey, you say the way the shutdown ends will likely be a national emergency declaration. I assume you mean by the president with respect to border security, and that he will then go ahead and presumably have the Army Corps of Engineers begin to build his wall.
Yeah, I think we'll see some manner of executive action to end the shutdown would be my guess. I think Trump needs a way to step down here that allows him to continue to say that he won, even though he's playing from a losing position at the moment. So that could be an emergency declaration. It could be an executive order. There are a number of ways that they could get there. But I think, given what we know about the way that Trump practices politics, just admitting defeat to Nancy Pelosi is probably not an option at this point.